Vygotsky's theory of cognitive development. Vygotsky placed a strong emphasis on the role of culture and social interaction. For this reason, Vygotsky's theory is often called the social cultural theory. It's similar to Piaget's in the sense that it is a stage theory, and culture here means all the knowledge and understanding we have around us. For example, in libraries, on the internet, through media and through word of mouth. Since it is our culture that holds all the knowledge available to us, it is this that prescribes what children learn. Vygotsky believed that children were born with basic cognitive abilities and changed into a more complex cognitive abilities through informal and formal interactions with those around who may convey the knowledge of a culture.
Vygotsky believed that social activity was key to understanding cognitive development. Language is our means of communicating this cultural knowledge, and so Vygotsky felt that language is extremely important in our development. Vygotsky indicates that certain types of cognitive development will take place at certain periods in the child's life. These age ranges between infancy and ends in adolescence. A really important feature here is how language is used.
Vygotsky's language model. So, the first stage in Vygotsky's language model is the pre-intellectual speech, and this occurs from 0 to 3 years of age. Vygotsky says that before 2 years of age, language is completely separate from thinking, and during the first year, children learn primarily through conditioning, much like lower animals. The child gradually begins to use language, but only in a very basic way, since they do not understand the symbolic nature of language. They learn to use language to express very simple feelings and thought processes, and in an attempt to control the behaviours of others around them. Speech at this stage is regarded as social speech.
Egocentric speech, 3 to 7 years. By the time a child reaches 3 years of age, they are beginning to use language in their problem solving. This is a sort of egocentric or inner speech where the child often talks out loud to themselves when solving problems. The child may talk to themselves whilst playing for building blocks, for instance. This type of speech is an outward expression of their thinking and is called monologue, where the child provides a sort of running commentary on his or her own actions. Vygotsky said that speech is now being used not just for communication but also for thinking.
The third and final stage in Vygotsky's language model is the inner speech, and this occurs from 7 years of age and onwards. Here the child learns to use language more effectively in order to understand the culture around them. This is where children stop talking to themselves when solving problems and their speech continues silently, hence the name inner speech. According to Vygotsky, it is these inner conversations that help the child organise their problem solving, and also he says that the inner speech was different from the kind of language used in communication. This is because it has begun to take on a very important role in that it is influencing the way we think. This inner speech can be thought of as an inner monologue. Stages of concept formation. Although Vygotsky added emphasis on the importance of language, he also argued that children pass through a number of stages of the development of concepts. These are Vygotsky's 4 stages of concept formation. So, stage 1 in the language model is the vague syncretic stage. In this stage, the child shows little or no understanding of concepts. Stage 2 is the complexest stage. In this stage, children begin to use non-random strategies, but they are not successful in discovering the concepts. Stage 3, however, is the potential concept stage. This is where children begin to use systematic strategies, however they are limited in this stage to focusing on only one feature of the blocks, which was part of his experiment. Stage 4 is the mature concept stage. Children use systematic strategies to identify the concepts correctly.
The zone of proximal development. Vygotsky said that the zone of proximal development is the distance between the child's current intellectual ability and their potential intellectual ability. In order to develop, the child must move through this zone. For instance, a child who is able to add up building blocks has the potential to understand that adding is a concept that can be applied to many things. Currently though, they only understand that adding one more building block makes more building blocks. There is a distance, intellectually, between their wider understanding of the concept of adding and the position in which they currently find themselves.
One key research into Vygotsky's theory was conducted by Ramachandran and Hubbard in 2003. They reported that language can influence the way we think about things. Their research was concerned with a phenomenon called synesthesia, whereby people experience objects that they see in the world as a smell or a sound. Initially, they reported the case of Esmeralda Jones, who experiences the colour blue whenever she hears the musical note C sharp. Since then, they said that it's not just people like Esmeralda Jones who show this type of ability. In their study, they show that the way in which language is used and the names we give things can influence the way we all think. In their research, they used 2 different shapes, one smooth and curvy like shape, which is referred to shape 1, and one jagged and pointed shape, which was referred to shape 2. They asked participants which of the shapes was a booba and which one was a kiki. Of course, the names of all the shapes were entirely invented. Either one of them could have been a kiki or a booba. They found that 98% of the participants said that shape 1, which is the curvy one, was a booba, and shape 2, which was the pointed one, was a kiki, even though none of the participants had ever seen the shape or heard the possible names for the shapes before. We all then have a bias to associate certain sounds with certain shapes. Ramachandran and Hubbard say that this is because humans learn to associate certain sounds with certain shapes as they develop. Application 2. Education.
Scaffolding in education. Scaffolding means that the educator or caregiver need not wait until the child appears ready to learn or move on intellectually. The child can be supported in their instability as they enter the ZPD. This support or scaffold eventually allows them to work alone. Olsen and Pratt say that the type of instruction given during scaffolding should be just slightly beyond the level that the child can achieve alone. If the support is far beyond the current capabilities of the child, they will not be able to continue alone once the support is removed.
In terms of group working in education, Vygotsky said that working together was an important part of learning. He called this collaborative learning and said that it gave an opportunity for children to use their language skills, to talk to one another and develop their ideas and concepts. There is evidence to suggest that group working is beneficial to the majority of students. For example, Gottkale in 1995 showed that collaborative learning certainly helps students at university to gain an understanding of critical thinking. In her research, she compared the performance of students who worked individually with those who worked collaboratively. All students were given a lecture and handed the worksheet. Half were told to work on the sheet alone and half were told to work collaboratively in groups. Finally, all were tested on their understanding of the topics covered on the sheet, which included some quite difficult problems involving critical thinking skills. The results were clear. Those that worked collaboratively performed much better than those who worked individually. On top of these, those in the collaborative group felt like their experience of working with others helped them gain a better understanding and stimulated their thinking. A limitation of Vygotsky's theory is that it is unrealistic. For example, in the zone of proximal development, Vygotsky claims that a child will need the help of a teacher in order to surpass this zone of proximal development. However, this is not the case and is unrealistic because if a teacher has 30 students, a teacher cannot put so much time and effort into these individual students.
A strength of Vygotsky's work is that the idea of scaffolding has been found to be very useful in learning development.
Vygotsky's theory does not always allow for individual differences in the way people learn. For instance, he indicates that group working is beneficial as it helps those engaging in it to share ideas and develop together. However, research into group working generally agrees that this is not the case, but there is some evidence that not everyone benefits from this approach. Another advantage is that Vygotsky's emphasis on the importance of social factors is very attractive to educators and to society in general, as it highlights the importance of society in the development of children's cognitive skills.
Vygotsky's theory overemphasises the importance of social influence and underemphasises the role of biological factors in cognitive development. Vygotsky's theory seems to be more holistic as he puts importance in both biological and social factors in cognitive development, unlike Piaget. His ideas have been very influential in cognitive development theories over the years and has influenced theorists like Brunner in his information processing theory.
A lot of the ideas in Vygotsky's theory make sense, thus it has face validity. However, the theories do not fully explain how intellectual development occurs,